This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Hello, and welcome to episode 45 of Paranormal Dads. I'm your co-host, Pat.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Eddie.
Join us as we go in search of the world's monsters, myths, and mysteries, right here on Paranormal Dads.
Awesome. And welcome everybody to a riveting show. We hope you're hanging in there, staying safe, staying healthy. Awesome background you have going there visually, Eddie.
Thank you.
For those of us tuning in.
It was Pat's idea.
We're getting very advanced in our old age here on Facebook.
Behold our mastery of technology and the paranormal.
You know, it's paranormal right now as these allergies. We're all like a little nasally and stuffy, but we'll survive. There's scarier things out there to worry about, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm pretty convinced it's not coronavirus. I think it's just seasonal allergies.
Talk about anxiety. It's like the minute now we get a sniffle, we're like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, anything, if you feel a little warm or something, it's just, oh my God. You gotta take your temperature, and any little thing kind of sets me off these days.
Well, yeah. It was about to be warm in my place just about an hour ago. Potentially threw off our time frame for today. My power in my house went out, and these guys, Eddie and Pat, were like, we about ready, guys? And I'm like, nope, I might be out altogether because my power's out. I have no internet.
And that's straight up frightening. You got no internet, no TV. Your food is spoiling in the fridge. You can't really go to the store to buy more food without, risking your life.
I was about to get a broomstick and just start, shaving off the end for a spear. I didn't know what to do. You go wander around the field and hunt for rabbits.
Do you see how quickly that we revert back instantly?
Yeah.
Wait, the power's out? Andy's breaking chairs to make firewood.
Back to nuts and berries.
Speaking of desperate times, you guys can't tell because of lighting, but I got like a week's worth of beard going here.
Ooh,
it's nothing. It's nothing compared to what Eddie has going on, but I need a razor like nothing else right now.
I'll have a few days on, few days off with work, and so I'll let it grow out for a couple of days, but I always shave it in before I go back into the office. But I should just let it go. And
you should. Your beard is like Atlantis. It's like the thing that we deserve that we'll never get.
Yeah.
Let it go, Pat. Let it go. Let it go. Oh, speaking of which, dudes, I'm rocking the Frozen headphones yet again.
Ooh,
see?
Nice. Silent.
I like that.
And
I'm rocking my daughter's Frozen headphones.
You now need to wear them every live broadcast we do.
It's my thing.
Part of your persona.
Yeah, it is. I can ditch the hat and I go everywhere with Frozen headphones on from now on. Henceforth.
People get their spirit animals tattooed on their arms, and Andy gets a pair of Frozen headphones tattooed on his bicep.
Mine's Olaf. Olaf is my spirit animal.
But yeah, we're making this quarantine work the best we can, and this is how we're doing it.
All right.
All right. Well, without further ado, our first segment of every episode is always recent sightings. And again, we get kind of loosey-goosey with the term recent, but I have something that's recent to me, if that counts. So back, my last live lecture was on Friday, the 13th of March, back when life was normal and you could be around other human beings. Right. So on Friday the 13th, I did like a spooky stories event, and a gentleman who was at the show later emailed my office saying that he had a humdinger of a story to share. And so he sent me, he emailed me the story along with a picture that goes along with it. And I got permission to talk about this on social media and whatnot. His name is Sean Powers. And Sean was the general manager of a he didn't give me the name, but it was a hotel, restaurant, bar, convention center in Fremont, Nebraska. And he was general manager there from 2000 to 2006. And he said even prior to him taking over the place, it was constant paranormal activity there. He said pianos would play by themselves in the middle of the night. Cabinets would open up. Lights would be turned on. Lights would be shut off by themselves. Pots and pans rattling in the kitchen, you name it, it happened there. And in 2008, he said what happened was they wanted to do a complete overhaul, renovation time. And as we paranormal dads know from reading other stories and watching documentaries, when you renovate a house or place, one of two things. Place up. Usually that's what happens is you shake it up. Either the paranormal activity will grind to a halt, or it will double overnight as the spirits might not be keen with all the changes going on. The spirits don't like change. Change is hard.
If you're hungry for a haunting, remodel your kitchen.
That's right. Stainless steel appliances, fine. It'll cost you though,
Yeah. I hope you don't like sleeping through the night because you're gonna
enjoy those granite countertops with ectoplasm included, right?
Yeah. There you go.
Hey, the eggs cook themselves on the countertop.
The guy at Nebraska Furniture Mart said it would happen. So in 2008, they renovate this place, and apparently there was a concrete area that was around the pool, and they were getting ready to lay some new tile down around the pool. And so they prepped it, they cleaned it, they washed it. And the next morning, before the tile was going to be laid over the concrete, he went and he was just going to get a before picture, before and after picture. So he snapped a photo, and I have that here somewhere if you want to get it pulled up, Eddie. But what he found, he took a picture, and there's something in the concrete, and he said it was a powdery, unknown substance. He was adamant that it was not liquid. And what it appears, as you can see here on the image, it looks like an actual photo. It looks, I'm going to describe it the best I can. It looks like either a fairy type creature or perhaps even a gargoyle type creature with wings.
Yeah.
And it's sticking out its chest, kind of like barrel chested, as though it's being pulled into the sky. Face looking up, chin up, almost like I think if you were to get abducted by a UFO and you were getting sucked up by the beam. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Legs are coming down off of this gargoyle type figure. There even appears to be what looks almost like a tail dangling down. And below the gargoyle, who's lifting up into the air, there is another figure who almost looks like a lady in a dress. And she's on her knees as if she's pleading for it not to go. Hands outstretched, grabbing the hoof or the foot of the gargoyle, lifting off. And it looks pretty darn defined. This is not like... what's that? The psychology ink block test. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not wishy-washy. This is clearly defined. It looks like a picture to me, and I never know what to expect when people send me pictures asking for my paranormal expertise. Some of them are, kind of, nebulous, undefined orbs. This one's pretty clear, boys.
So was this on the cement, or is this just on the image itself?
Yeah, so this wasn't a trick of light. This powdery substance was actually on the concrete.
Okay.
That's what he said. And he said it couldn't have been liquid. It couldn't have been paint or paint thinner or anything like that, because as you can see, there's cracks in the concrete. And if it was liquid, it would have followed a path like water does. It would have followed a crack like a stream. And this bypassed the crack, and still the image remains of this gargoyle taking off and this woman pleading for it not to go. I, for one, was kind of floored. Yeah, I didn't know what to tell Sean. Clearly something's going on there, paranormal or otherwise. Now, from a scientific standpoint, there is a phenomena, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think it's called pareidolia. It's a phenomena of people seeing, realistic looking shapes or figures in mundane objects. So, think of, the guy who sees, the Virgin Mary on their grilled cheese toast, or, somebody who has a potato chip that looks like Abe Lincoln's face, things like that.
Elvis and the oatmeal.
Elvis and the oatmeal, classic. If I had a nickel for every time I heard that.
That's what I won't eat my oatmeal unless I see Elvis in it.
That's right.
I dump it out. Like, this is not Elvis approved. Gross.
Yeah, when I first saw that image, the one that you're kind of calling a gargoyle, it almost looked angelic to me. But then you look at the legs, and it almost looks like it, almost like hoofed feet, kind of a look to it.
Yeah, very demonic almost in a way.
That's kind of weird.
That's the thing. Everything's always open to interpretation. You ask one person and it's an angel. You ask another person, it's a demon. You ask somebody else, it's a fairy or a gargoyle. The wings are really clear, though. Everything in the picture is very clear. This is honestly kind of a first for me. I've never really seen an image with potentially paranormal or spiritual undertones. I've never seen it appear like on concrete or anything like that. Usually what it is a trick of the light, something that was caught on camera or even caught on audio, but you didn't actually see it in the moment, if that makes sense. Yeah.
What gets me as far as like an art person, and not that I do like art, but I draw. My living is made out of drawing. And I draw maps, everybody, in case you're wondering.
Eddie worked for Etch-a-Sketch.
I worked for Etch-a-Sketch, and that magnet remember that magnetic toy where you dragged over the shavings to give the bald guy hair?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's me. I help draw. But the ratio of everything, it's almost proportionate if you look at it.
Yeah.
Like the gargoyle or demon, if you will's like legs and arm and head are all kind of proportionate to the body and the wings,
Right.
And that's the part that gets me. Like, this is where you would almost assume that this was like intentionally done. Like,
like a art piece or something somebody was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, if that's the case, no one hung around to take credit for it. Nobody could explain it. It's almost like, what's the point? The ends don't justify the means. It's almost like, and we've said this before, but it's like those guys who, you find a Bigfoot track in the middle of nowhere, and if it was a hoax, no one stayed around long enough to get a laugh out of it. So like, what's the point?
Right.
And still to this day, it's unexplained. I think even after that renovation in 2008, they continued to have more and more paranormal experiences. And I believe Mr. Powers got out of being the general manager in 2016. But again, this photo is new to me. I figured it would make a good recent sightings. And the thing I love about, situations or cases like this is we love feedback. We are paranormal dads, paranormal enthusiasts. And even myself as a psychic medium, I'll be the first to admit not everything can be explained. I don't know what this is beyond it's incredibly interesting. So if you have a suggestion, please write us on Facebook or email us and tell us what you think it is. Or if you're, in the concrete business, or if you're in the chemical business, please let us know what you think could have caused this.
Yeah, no, that would be people talk about seeing weird designs and, in like random or like typically mundane objects. These guys or gals would totally see that. Like, oh yeah, I've seen ghost stuff inside of this pavement all the time.
Yeah. And what is it, by the way, with hotels being haunted? Like, I swear, like more often than not, they are. And that could be a Motel 8 in the middle of nowhere, or it could be, a big, huge, fancy hotel in the middle of New York City. They're notoriously haunted. You guys have any theories as to why?
I just wonder if it has something to do with how many people travel through those places. You got all kinds of different energies coming into places, whereas in a home, you've got usually one or two families living in a place, and they stay there for a certain amount of time, and then they move on. Someone else moves in. But in the hotels, you got people coming in constantly. It's just a constant cycle of different people and their energies coming into places. So it makes you wonder if that has something to do with it.
Wiping their shoes on the rug and wiping their emotions all over the room.
Yeah. You think about the different emotional states too of people. Like going to a hotel can be kind of for some people, if you travel a lot, it might become kind of boring or mundane. But for a lot of people who might have like different peaks to their traveling, like maybe they don't go a whole bunch, they miss their families. Maybe they're like going through something weird in their lives and they have to be at a hotel, or it's happy energy and they're there because they're on vacation. Excited. So there's like all these emotional highs and lows, I think, that are associated with hotels too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All good points, but it's interesting to say the least. So that's what I rounded up for recent sightings today, and big thanks to Sean Powers for sharing that with me. And we're always open to a little paranormal evidence, whether it's audio or video or still pictures. So thanks to Sean for that.
Yep. An aspect to our show that's going to be different while we're doing these things live is we get actual live feedback. And super friend and listener Donise Walter says suicides more often than not happen in hotels because they don't want their families to find them. So there's a not happy.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah.
It's a good point, though. I mean, it's a good point. A lot of people in hotels are running from their problems, so to speak. So it adds like another layer of emotion. You know, it adds an emotional layer to that lasagna of the energy there. And sometimes it's kind of a funky vibe.
You know, and on a happy one, you have people who are like recently married or even like, you know, who want to get away and go to a hotel. So there's all this happy love energy in there too. And hashtag happy love energy.
Hashtag don't use a black light.
Hashtag Andy sleeps in the tub when he goes into travels in hotels.
I don't know if that'd be worse. I don't know if that's worse or better, but
hashtag time to move on to pop culture and the paranormal.
Hey,
indeed. Eddie, are you up to bat for pop culture today?
It's me on this one.
It's time for pop culture and the paranormal.
All right, what you got?
All right, so I got a borderline pop in the paranormal and lifestyles of the paranormal and famous. Did I do that right, Pat? It's lifestyles of the
paranormal lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Yes. There it is. So it's borderline between those two, but still very much pop culture. So this came about in a conversation with a friend of the show. He's been on here a couple times, Billy Peck. And fellow podcaster and member of Starfighters Entertainment Group, the Last Starfighters Entertainment Group.
An awesome musician, by the way, too.
Oh, great musician! I had the honor and privilege of getting to sing a song with him on stage. If you guys saw any of that, and so anyway, we were just chatting in general, and we were talking about Andy. If you remember this conversation, we were discussing tulpas at one point in time.
Yeah.
And just maybe like manifestation and attracting things sometimes to you when maybe you don't mean to or whatever. And Adam Green, this came up in mine and Billy's conversation. Adam Green, well, the name might not bring a lot of like people are like, oh, I know who that is. He's actually a director. He's directed quite a few. He tends to hover around the horror genre. And I had the tab up, but I don't have it now. So anyway, just look him up, everybody. But one of his credits was he was a creative director or even a director for the Friday the 13th video game as well. So he's tied into that franchise. And he's done a TV show that Billy is a big fan of called Holliston. It's kind of a horror comedy type thing. Mm-hmm. But Adam Green is a director of a film called Hatchet and Frozen. And not that Frozen, a different. It's a horror movie about these people that get stuck on the ski lift.
Hatchet.
He directed Frozen.
So yeah, use a hatchet and you cut people up, and then you hide their limbs in the freezer. That's what it's about, right?
Truck.
Yes,
solved it. There you go.
Somewhere in New Jersey.
Exactly. It's about an ice cream truck, but people aren't happy to see it. And so what happened was this director was having a gangly old creature man visiting him at night in his room. And he would wake up and he would feel like something was in the room with him. And he would get up to go look around to see what was in the room. And huddled in the corner, he would see this weird, grisly, almost Gollum looking like old man, kind of like just staring at him like
I don't know what's worse.
Precious,
like if it was
precious.
Yeah. I don't know what's worse if it was in the corner or standing right by his bed. Either way is creepy.
Right. And this is already like he's already way more tough than me because the next scene in this film of real life is me burning my house down. Yeah. That's a can of gas and a match. There you go. That was easy.
Be sure to sanitize that gas can before you touch it, though, right?
Exactly. Right. Wear my gloves, my mask. So eventually, this gangly old man creature would talk. Once again, I would just, I don't know, kill myself. would say, and it would say, croak out, my back hurts to Adam Green. So the next day,
I've been there before. In his defense, I've been there laying on the floor. Oh, my back.
Oh yeah. Hashtag paranormal dads.
It's the dad and paranormal dad.
And so the next day, one of his producers, who was actually kind of a clairvoyant as well, she asks if he's been visited by anything, because lately he's had kind of this like dark heaviness around him. And she's like, are you okay? Are you going through anything? And he's like, maybe. And he kind of describes to her what it was, what he saw, and her advice to him, which is some solid paranormal dad's advice. And Andy said it before.
Did she say burn it down?
She said burn it down. She said burn the house down right now. She said basically what we've said before, Andy, what you said before in your panels and your different like open forums that you have, where you got to claim your space. You got to simply, and it sounds like it's too simple. It sounds like you got to draw some weird symbol on the wall in your own blood. You don't have to do that. You good news, everybody.
You can just pee all over the room. That's marking your territory.
Do it.
Yeah.
Nothing says
watch anyways, right?
Nothing says get out of my house more. Yeah. Than peeing on things. No, you claim your space. You basically out loud with intention to, say, this is my space. You're not welcome here. And anything that I don't want here, get to getting.
Go on, get
now. Dirty aliens. But and so he did that. He went in there, and there is something kind of empowering about doing that. And I don't know if anybody watching or listening has done that, but I will say, if you feel silly, but just do it, because it's strangely empowering. And kind of like, I'll give the Marty McFly advice. Even when George was like, do you think I should swear? If it helps you to swear. Just tell that thing, whatever energy you feel in there, that it's not welcome. And you'd be surprised how well it works and how more, empowered you feel.
Especially if you use an old prospector voice like Eddie.
Seriously, invoke the old prospector, and you're gonna feel good. Just ball up one eye like this and be like, "Yeah, you dirty demon." Yeah.
Well, Eddie also has the advantage that he could grab one of his antique swords off the wall and wave it around. That'll scare off any ghost.
I mean, why are you going to stay in my house if I'm waving a sword at you?
Nothing says get like battle axe, right?
Nothing says get like a hillbilly with a sword. But so he did this. Adam Green took his friend's advice and said, hey, I'm going to do this. And it worked. And that he was no longer visited by that thing. There's the catch, though. Mr. Green started experiencing pretty extensive back pain after this. And his friend, the clairvoyant, even said that sometimes these things have a way of trying to project their problems onto you, depending on what's going on and all that stuff. So apparently since then he's had some degree of back pain. So, hey, Mr. Green, if you're still suffering from back pain, give us a shout. Maybe we can offer you some advice.
That sucks, man. Ghosts and demons projecting their issues onto us. That means if you have a spirit bothering you who used to be in debt, you could suddenly find your bank account empty, right?
Right.
Oof, make your money disappear, kind of deal.
Why does a ghost need money? It's like the James T. Kirk. What does God need with a starship?
Right.
Am I right, Pat?
Absolutely.
But yeah, that is really interesting. And that's one of the things that I enjoy a lot about this, just talking about these types of things, is sometimes these experiences are huge, right? Like the Phoenix Lights, or mass sightings, or like when people all hear like those weird horns coming from heaven, the loud sounds. And sometimes they're just really weird singular events that just kind of happen and then go away. And you have there's nothing to really hang your hat on. It happened. You were there, you experienced it, but now it's over. And it's just interesting.
I love some of those weird anomalies too, like those one-off things where it was so bizarre, like you can't rationalize it. We actually talked about that last episode when we were talking about that new TV show on Travel Channel called Paranormal Caught on Camera, because a lot of those are just weird anomalous things that happen once and haven't been caught again. So A creepy dude in the corner of your room with a bad back, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, and like we've all been there before. You know, you wake up in the middle of the night and you see some weird shadowy figure in your bedroom, and
Oh yeah.
you know, half the time it's a pile of laundry on your dresser that you forgot to fold or something like that. But
My thing once again, man, is like he's like, my back hurts. Like your head's gonna hurt now. Start hitting him with a bat.
But I tell you what, I woke up the other day, just two mornings ago. I woke up about 6 a.m. I was still sleeping, and me and my cat and my dog, who were all on my bed, we were all simultaneously woken up by a loud crashing noise somewhere in my house. And you know, it was one of those things where it was so loud and it was so abrupt. I got out of bed to go investigate, walked into every room on my house, never did find anything out of place. But
gotta love
you
that.
know,
But
but
every room check. Ugh.
yeah, that's apples and oranges, though. If there was a guy in my corner, I'd probably just throw something sharp or hard at him, you know?
Yep.
But
There you go. That's some pop and paranormal for you. Certainly a little bit of pop and a lot of paranormal. And much love to you, Mr. Green. Hopefully you've fixed your back.
Take care of yourself.
And now it's time for the main mystery.
up last but not least is the main course, main event. Pat, what do you got rounded up there for main mystery?
Picture yourself on an island,
Please.
a tropical paradise.
Close your eyes, Eddie. Let's imagine
Let's
ourselves
forget
there.
about all the stress. Go ahead, close your eyes. Forget all the stress.
I'm
No
lotioning Andy's
stress.
back right now.
I got my sunscreen. Yeah.
I'm putting sunscreen on Andy's back.
No anxiety. Make sure that sunscreen is reef protective sunscreen. It's going to be good for the reefs. You don't want to damage the reefs.
Well, mine's SPF 666. So
Ooh,
yeah.
demonic.
You got sandy beaches. You got the cool blue waters. Impressive volcanoes in the background in all their glory. Jurassic Park type scenery.
Yes.
The warm breeze. Are you feeling it?
I'm there, man.
Are you feeling it?
Feels like Hawaii. That's where Jurassic Park was
And that's
filmed.
where we're going. We're going to Hawaii.
Yep.
Because there's more to Hawaii than just the crystal blue waters and the sand and the surf
I got the Aloha Spirit patch.
and the
on.
shopping.
Mm.
Out there beyond the horizon, just past the trees, are deep jungles.
Yes.
And in those jungles, there is plenty of folklore and legend and tales of creatures roaming those jungles that are just as strange as any other monster in the world. So they say Bigfoot has never been seen in Hawaii. It's the only state where they haven't seen Bigfoot. But Hawaii has their own little creatures that would get Gilligan going, running for Skipper if he came across these creatures. So one of those creatures that we're going to be talking about today is called the Menehune. And this is going to be a hard one for me to say.
Menehune.
Menehune.
Hey, we should have worn our Hawaiian leis, guys.
Right?
I had my Hawaiian shirt on the last show. I probably should have saved it for this show. But...
Eddie, you should be wearing your coconut bra right now, dude.
Well, I am wearing a thong bikini bottom right now. So
we will not provide the picture with that for our live feed.
No pictures.
Thank you for sharing. So what the Menehune are they're an alleged race of hairy dwarves, usually 2 to 3 feet tall. They're stout, they're muscular, broad shoulders, often have a pot belly. Their faces possess long eyebrows and a protruding brow, sharp ears, and large, intelligent eyes. I like the one standing there on the beach right now.
I like him a lot.
Cool.
Yeah.
I should get him for my garden, stick him next to
Exactly.
Bigfoot.
You need a Menehune garden gnome.
He's throwing up the hang loose sign with his hand there.
Yeah.
He's a party animal right
Mahalo.
here. Mahalo, bro. Yes.
So-
brah. Not bro, brah.
The Menehune are said to be nocturnal. They are said to live in caves deep within the forest. And during the day, they come out and communicate using a series of grunts and growls. They've even been reported to mimic humans, even though, there's no way to know if they actually know the language or know what we're saying. In some traditions, they're said to even be able to communicate telepathically.
Well, regarding
so if you get weird feelings in the jungle in Hawaii, it might be that menehune trying to take over your brain.
Menehune, they grunt and groan when they exit their caves. I mean, it's speaking from our paranormal dad perspective, we're not getting any younger. I tend to grunt and groan as I get out of bed in the morning too.
Oh yeah, me. Yeah,
my oldest calls them dad.
100%.
You're making dad sounds.
So, well, speaking of dads, menehune are said to be master builders. They're responsible for many structures on the island, including homes, temples, bridges, and canals. There's a place called the Alikoko Fish Pond on Lihui. I hope I say that right.
I think so.
Which is actually the largest aquaculture site in Hawaii. Legend says that it was the menehune who built that feature, I guess you'd call it. There's also the Menehune Ditch, which is another favorite place for people to visit. It's actually an irrigation ditch that funnels water from the Waimea River on Kauai.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah. I was going to ask, do people, in Hawaiian cultures take this pretty seriously? I mean, I think in the past we've touched on, what is it, Iceland, who they take the, what is it, Eddie, the
elves, baby.
Elves. They take elves so seriously. In Iceland, they like reroute construction projects and stuff to go around, elf nests and stuff like that. So in Hawaii, I mean, are these more like sacred creatures? Are they feared? Is it
yeah, well, opinion? I think they recognize them and they acknowledge them. Some people even claim to be descendants of the Menehune, and they still identify with them. So
that's pretty cool. I mean, that could, if you're like a small in stature kind of person, that's a good way to avoid being picked on in gym class, right? Hey, Dave, bro, leave me alone. I'm a descendant of the Menehune, right?
Oh, leave him alone.
Not good at basketball, but I can build something for you.
So were they known to have any sort of like, I hate to ask, but like magic or anything like that? Or is it mostly just that they were kind of short and they could like, there were different like subspecies, not subspecies, but
what they thought they were some of the original inhabitants of the island. And then it was the Tahitians came to the islands. And this is, even before the Hawaiian peoples started inhabiting the islands,
right?
But the Tahitians came in and they were very vicious. They were, of course, larger than these people and basically enslaved these people. And they say that's how some of these features, some of these ponds and things were built, because the Tahitians basically put these menehune into slavery and built these. That's kind of how the folklore of the thing, and how some of these places came to be. Even up till current day, people still have sightings of the menehune, even though they're kind of a folklore creature. People still today claim to have seen these creatures running around. One of the most well-known sightings was made by a group of 40 school children and their teacher back in the 1940s.
Whoa.
And so apparently they were out on some kind of a field trip. And according to the report, the group spotted several of the creatures jumping around in some trees near the property that they were visiting. And when they realized they were being watched, they silently just dispersed into the wilderness. Later, they went down and tried to find them, and they didn't find any trace of them.
Whoa!
But
how tall did they say they were again?
2 to 3 feet.
Wow. See that,
it's kind of weird because sometimes people even say that they're so small that they could fit in your hand, which is
really small.
That's
really small.
You're almost you're getting talking, down to pixie level,
like very like
Smurf level. That reminds me of like there's a legitimate. I mean, they're not quite 3 feet. I say like their average height is maybe between 3 and 4 feet tall. But there's an actual tribe in Africa right now. And I think the word pygmy is kind of frowned upon. I think it's almost like saying gypsy now. It's like not very, very polite to say. Right. But I forget the name. But there was a famous UFC fighter who actually went into live with this tribe. This is like today, like now. It's not like and they're a legitimate, they're all human. I mean, but they're just super, like the average height of a man. And I think the tallest guy in their village is like 5 feet tall.
Wow.
And they, just like what you said, Pat, they kept getting like stolen in the night by neighboring tribes. It carried away like children and forced into labor because they were so easy to steal. And it's funny, but it's tragic. And these people were like, they were all just really short. I mean, and they're still like a legitimate thing. Just short people. And it makes me wonder, is this just a bunch of people who happen to just be really short? And they're like, man, listen, we were treated like garbage. We better hide and just lay low,
stay in the caves.
Yeah.
We're not coming out again until you people treat us right.
Right.
Well, I know the three of us and maybe some of our listeners too were children of the 80s and 80s/90s. And I remember, wasn't there an episode of Full House that touched on the Menahunis? I
think there was actually.
The family, the Tanner family goes to Hawaii, and it was like a season finale, because I think it might have been like a 2-part special, but it was filmed on location in Hawaii. And I think it was little Stephanie in the show who saw them, and nobody believed her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because she's like, I do believe in Menahunis. And then I think eventually other people see them as well.
Oh, I gotta check that out.
So there's a little pop culture sprinkle on top of the main mystery.
Yeah, I wonder if John Stamos saw the Menahuni and they were probably jealous of his hair.
Oh yeah,
they might have.
Who isn't
tried to duplicate his hair?
Uncle Jesse, man, not a hair out of place on that head.
Oh no.
Yeah. So
anybody interested?
Business in the front, party in the back.
But the Menahuni look like they're party all the time.
Well, they are muscular.
They're right.
They look pretty beefy.
Listen, if I could be that jacked, I'd sacrifice about 3 feet of my height to get down to
yeah.
But I'm also jacked, bro.
Loincloth Eddie. All he has a little loincloth and then abs. There's nothing else to him.
I'm carrying a jar of spaghetti sauce, like it's like this big around. Ooh.
There was even a present day sighting. I mean, we're talking about maybe. There was a caller on AM Coast to Coast. One of my favorite shows I used to listen to on the radio. Art Bell hosted it for years, and then
George
Norrie took over.
Yeah.
In May of 2006. Somebody said a woman said she encountered several creatures crossing the road as she was driving down the road one night. Actually, it was a group of like 20 that she told this story on Coast to Coast. Like 20 of them passed in front of her car as she was driving around the road. And she described them as little hairy humans, about 3 feet tall, each covered in slightly different colored hair. And the woman claimed to actually have hit one of these creatures and later found a dent in her car with reddish hair left behind. It's like, well, didn't you go back and see if they were okay?
Because if it is a person, little people are still people. I mean, that's like vehicular manslaughter or something at that point in time.
But the article I read about this, or apparently one of the comments she made on the show is, she no longer had the hair for analysis, which I thought was kind of interesting. She probably got rid of the hair to get rid of any evidence she had of possibly causing a hit and run accident.
I mean, first of all, you make sure the person's okay.
Right.
Secondly, you call an ambulance if they're not. And third, if it was something weird that you hit, you put that hair in a Ziploc baggie.
Right. This story only, like, either A, you're lying, or B, you're a bad person who hits people and then keeps driving. Oh, that was weird.
There's C, you're just annoying to those of us in the cryptozoology field who want DNA evidence, right?
Plus, she's lucky these things didn't come back after her. Like, man, they ran over old Greg back there. We got to go come and knock the door. Got two of them standing on our shoulders, like little rascals. Oh man! God.
So another theory that's out there is that these creatures are a relative of some miniature humanoids that are called the Flores hobbits, or they're known as the Homo floresiensis.
I got
you
you,
want to
Pat.
say that? Yeah,
It's Homo floresiensis.
Homo floresiensis, a small race of humanoids which are thought to have existed like 12 to 13,000 years ago.
Yep.
And so these could be descendants from them.
Yep.
Thank you, Andy. I knew I was going to just butcher that. I even had it phonetically spelled out, and I still couldn't do it.
You know, I can't remember to pay my electrical bill, but I remember that because I heard it 12 years ago on History Channel. You know, it's funny
Andy's
what you can remember.
To his iPhone.
Homo floresiensis, capital H.
But some think these still may live on some of the remote islands in the Pacific, and there's even several Pacific islands where there are long traditions of sightings of miniature hairy wild men, and so perhaps even these early humanoids had been around longer than people had actually thought.
Off the coast of the Congo, there was also the similar stories, and they invoked the Homo floresiensis as well. They were like, I say they, the people that were reporting these stories, and even some paleontologists looked into it and were like, this may actually have been a thing at some point, not now, but enough that it got into the memory, into like the cultural memory of like people who lived in the Congo area, but that there was actually tribes of these Homo floresiensis that were tiny, like offshoots, not even offshoots, but like a separate. They're human, but they're not in the same thing as us, as Cro-Magnon and even Neanderthal. They were a whole separate thing, but they were little. And they would like steal babies and stuff. Like it was crazy. It was like
I've heard stories like that.
Yeah, man. Ugh. You know, babies in the night. Don't be doing that.
But you know, in terms of having places for these menehune to hide, Hawaii's a place, dude. I've been there before. Man. It is so jungly. I mean, it almost rivals like Alaska in some places. It's just so remote. It's so dense. You know, on some of these, you know, charter buses and stuff that we were on, you look into the forest and it's just inaccessible because, you know, first of all, a lot of it's really steep terrain. It's a very volcanic area, and secondly, you know, the growth of the plants are just ridiculous. Like if they wanted to hide in there, they could hide. It's just like we've said before, you know, if you want to hide something, put it in the forest or put it in the bottom of the ocean, because human beings can hardly get to either place. So.
Right.
Well, you think about the movie Jurassic Park and some of the landscape that they featured in that movie. We were there just about a year ago. We went to Hawaii on a vacation, and we were actually kind of doing some zip lining through a valley where they actually filmed parts of Jurassic Park. And yeah, you could totally get lost if you wanted to in some of those landscapes, just the valleys and the steep hills, and there's plenty of places to hide.
But guys, think back to our Sasquatch expedition that we did, and I mean, anybody watching or listening, how many steps into the forest before you're like, man, like, you know, you know, 100 steps into the forest, and then already you're like, not many people go this far already.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Especially if you're just tall as a stack of apples, you're
a stack of apples.
Is that kind of like a Little House on the Prairie shortcake?
Exactly.
Your little menehune friend, you call him, hey, stack of apples.
Hey, stack of apples. I get beaten up and like a slur, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was cute.
So it's not just the menehune of Hawaii, though. There's actually kind of a more kind of a counterpart to Bigfoot that has been reported or seen there on the islands. Like in 1973, a person reported that he had a frightening encounter while out fishing for catfish. And so he'd laid these traps for the catfish, and he had laid his traps out, and he was just getting ready to go home. And it was night, starting to get dark. And of course, you know, in this thick brush, you know, things get dark real quick. And he heard just this ungodly howl. And he said it sounded like a wild man. And he decided, okay, it's time to go home, time to book it out of here. So he and a friend of his at first they thought it was just someone trying to play a practical joke on them, but the wailing intensified. And so finally they're just like, we're getting out of here. And as they ran out back to their car, wherever it was however they got to the location, they encountered what they reported as a 7 to 8 foot tall, hairy female creature who was naked except for a loincloth. And the pair turned back and ran back to the river. And as one of them stumbled down the side of the embankment, another giant woman stepped out from behind a tree. And he said she must have been at least 7 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
So if that isn't going to get your heart going, I don't know what will. But they reportedly made their way home, and they were unable to sleep, of course, for the night. They did go back and try to get the traps later, and they did find some massive tracks that they said measured around 20 inches long.
Oh, wow.
And
some big feet.
Yeah, they said it kind of looked like someone had been messing with their traps as well, which a 7-foot person, I'm sure, could do a lot of damage to a trap like that. But they swore they'd never go fishing in that area ever again. So
where was this again?
I don't think I have the site in my notes, but it was in Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah, you don't hear many Bigfoot reports, though, of big creatures like that from Hawaii. Interesting, but, given how jungly and dense it is, but that's interesting. I wouldn't sleep either if I saw a 7-foot tall, hairy woman from behind a tree. Yeah. No, thank you. That's when you go check into therapy and you sleep later.
Yeah. But you know what? Maybe, depending on your marital status, maybe you're like, hey, are you single? I know you like fish. In common, that's cool. It couldn't possibly last.
So, in the 80s, there was another creature kind of roaming the place, and this takes place on the island of Maui. And this is actually a large cat that was reported.
Ooh, here we go.
Similar to a puma, which is not native to the islands at all. They don't have large cats on the islands. But they said it was described as having fawn-colored hair and a long tail. And between December of 2002 and June of 2003, a series of 8 reports were filed of this mystery cat lurking around. And it got the authorities kind of scratching their heads. And then they started finding like exotic pets or birds killed and mangled, and that really got them looking around and starting to take action. They actually started putting out box traps and things to try to trap the animal. You fast forward a little bit, there was another sighting in June of 2003, and a clump of unusual fur was found that was similar in color to what was being reported. And fearing for public safety, again, they tried to capture whatever it was, and they hired a person who was like some kind of big cat expert, and they brought him onto the island.
Oh, no.
They had Tiger King out there, mullet and everything.
In our universe now.
So this expert on cats went on to use an array of advanced methods to try to get to the bottom of the mystery, including infrared cameras, a recording of wild cats that he'd blast into the wilderness to try to attract it. Although he was unable to capture film or any kind of evidence of, any hard evidence of the cat, they did find some more claw marks and tracks, claw marks on trees and tracks that they couldn't explain.
Did he throw the steak necklace, though? Because the steak necklace is guaranteed to work every time. Every time. You went out to the forest with a steak necklace, something's coming up on you. Experience talking, kids.
So, but just as mysteriously as these sightings started around 2003, they stopped, and doesn't sound like they've seen much of the Maui cat, as the Maui mystery cat they began to call it.
The MMC.
Haven't seen him around anymore.
Some people call them ABCs, alien big cats, large,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
large cats in places where they're not supposed to be, or they're supposed to be extinct. And, those are big animals too. They require a pretty extensive diet to survive and mate and carry on. And it's
Hawaii has like boars and stuff. Don't they have like wild pigs and stuff like that in Hawaii?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they're always having the pig roasts at
Yeah.
luau's and things like that.
Yeah. I would imagine, even though not native, a cat, even if it's just one or two, could probably subsist pretty well in Hawaii.
Oh, you would think so.
Yeah.
There's got to be all kinds of little critters running around that they could eat, plenty of food and
snack on a
and
menehune.
the birds.
Snack on a menehune. That'd keep them fed for a while.
Or
but yeah,
aim it and ride it around.
Now you're it kind of reminds me of like a movie like Willow or something like that,
Yeah.
Where those little pixie things are riding a cat through a place.
The corgis, they like fairies riding corgis around.
Yeah.
So, finally, we got one last one to talk about. In 1999, 2 soldiers on the island of Oahu spied something strange through the wispy cloud cover in the night sky. They reported seeing a strange bird-like flying creature illuminated by the full moon, and it had a wingspan of about 20 feet.
Yep.
So we were kind of talking about something like this, a few episodes ago, but it had an elongated head and a short neck with angular wings and a tail that was about a quarter of the length of the creature's total length. And the creature was reported to be flying quite gracefully and hovered and dived through the clouds for some time before wandering out of sight. And one of the soldiers described this strange creature as looking like a pterodactyl.
Sounds like the dragon Eddie saw a few months back.
Yeah.
Yes. But what I saw was way bigger than 20 feet.
Yeah.
Way bigger. 100.
Because you were talking about something that was more like a airliner type size, right?
And not an update in the sense of like, I saw it again, but a quick update, and not to derail you, Pat, but real quick.
No, you're fine.
We're on this. We, Gwen and I were back out in that exact area yesterday. And we saw, because remember we mentioned the Millard Airport is right next to that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of planes, little guys, little like crop dustery style Cessna type planes taking off. And we saw them in the sky where they're not terribly high, but not terribly, they're low enough that you can actually like see the color and the stripe, you can see the details on the plane.
Gotcha.
And it was teeny. I'm like, it was like this big, like at the height, if I held my fingers apart, it's like that big,
and so whatever you saw was gigantic.
Whatever I saw in relation to this was this. And I'm not kidding.
No big deal. Our dragons are bigger in Omaha than they are in Hawaii.
Whatever.
Whatever. Size doesn't matter. Whatever.
Dragons, 20 feet. What? That's cute. That's cute.
Yeah, it's just cute.
It made me actually like not scared, but it made me like take pause again. Like I got goosebumps a little bit. Like, man, that thing was big. How big is that thing? And how is it so quiet? And how is it so? Anyway, I digress. I saw a plane and was like, anyway.
Those Hawaiian dragons are like menehune dragons. They're so teeny.
They're cute. They're 12 apples long.
European dragons, yeah.
The tiny dragons. Look at them.
That'd be kind of cool too, though. That you see a pterodactyl come down after the menehune, or the what was it, the Maui cat?
Oh gosh, that's the
you could have like a Godzilla type movie.
Talk about a paranormal power slam.
There you go.
You could have a menehune riding a dragon.
We're writing this fanfic already. We need to just pin this in. Paranormal Dad's trademark 2020.
If we ever do the paranormal power slam tournament again, that's gonna have to be one of the creatures. A menehune riding a dragon. Who would win between that and the alien big cat?
I love it. We're gonna write it down. So Hawaii, full of stuff. I mean,
yeah. There's all kinds of different stuff going on there. They might not have Bigfoot, but they certainly have their share of monsters, myths, and mysteries. That's for sure.
Looks like we got to go explore. We got to go check it out, guys.
Hey, want to give a shout out to some of our Facebook friends. Perry is saying Happy Easter. So happy Easter, Perry. Thanks for stopping by.
Yep.
Jesse Kiefer stopped by. Always good to hear from Jesse, even though
Jesse throwing out a pun there. It was going there sooner or later.
He's kind of comparing the Maui cat to the Broadway cats.
Yeah, so. The Broadway hit. Billy has said that one of the Menehune looked like me, so that was a nice comparison.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Stephen Ford, who stopped by to say hi to us. I actually work with Stephen's brother.
Oh, nice.
So Stephen joined us, and appreciate you listening and joining in, Stephen. Thanks.
And he didn't like my thong reference. So
TMI, Eddie.
He didn't care for that. That's okay.
TMI. Okay. I'm right there with him.
I'll never do that again. I promise. Paranormal promise.
And I've slept with this man too.
I know.
We'll go on record.
We'll cuddle buddies forever.
That's right.
You guys are never gonna live that down. Ozark cuddle buddies.
Hey
man, when you got to stay warm, you put your pride aside, right?
Sasquatch cuddle buddies. What was it? 2017,
2016.
That was that long ago, and all.
It was that long ago. Coming up on 4 years since we did that trip.
Is that right? Wow.
Yep.
That's how we get old.
Yeah,
that's what happens. But yeah. That's we're approaching 4 years old on this podcast, aren't we? That's what someone told us.
Is it 3 or 4?
Oh
3.
God, we couldn't figure it out last episode either.
We never did go back to do the math.
It was 3. We're looking at 3.
Okay.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to our Hawaiian edition of Paranormal Dads. So happy Easter to everybody. Thanks to freesound.org for providing some of the music and sound effects for this episode. As always, if you have questions or comments, hit us up through paranormaldads@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And so there you go. A little entertainment to break up the monotony of the pandemic. And thanks to everyone for supporting us all these years, however long we've been doing this.
Yes.
And anything else, guys?
That's all I got. Thank you all.
I just want to say mahalo, people. Hang loose. Take care.
See you guys.
Take care of each other. Bye-bye.